Ooh, good evening. Drop the camera. How are we? So we are on part 2 of Mr. and Mrs. Lovey Dovey and the Sea of Tears. How are you all today? Have you had a lovely day? We've done mostly cleaning and clearing out things, which is really exciting, isn't it? I bet a lot of you are doing that, clearing out things and making space that you never had time to make. Thoroughly interesting. Now, we had the wedding last night, didn't we? We had Mr. and Mrs. Lovey Dovey getting married. So, meanwhile, Miss Dovey wore an enormous puff of a dress that was fashioned from net curtains. It made her look like a meringue. Although the kids were missing lessons, nothing could be more boring than a marriage service that lasted 9 hours. Oh, it was so bum-numbingly lengthy because the groom insisted on reading aloud a 10,000-line poem he'd written about his bride. You are the angel of my heart. In front of you, I would not fart, or burp, or scratch my bottom, because you, Miss Dovey, are the one. Isn't that romantic? The bride, meanwhile, had written a 4-hour opera about the groom, which she sang in German. As the wedding guests began to nod off, the weary-looking vicar finally pronounced them man and wife. You are now Mr. and Mrs. Lovey Dovey. The bride burst into floods of tears. I do hope they are happy, wappy tears, love of my life, inquired the groom. I have never been happy or wappier. Seeing his wife cry, Mr. Lovey Dovey couldn't help but cry too. They all cried. They cried for a good hour or so. The tears collected in giant puddles on the floor. The vicar looked at her watch and she sighed. I'm very sorry, but I have a christening and then a funeral to get through today, so please, could you just bog off? Still the teachers sobbed. I said, bog right off. The vicar lobbed a hymn book at the elderly organist, who had fallen asleep. Upon waking, the organist began playing the wedding march. Da 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 da. Then, when the pair didn't move, look, it's still there. The vicar rolled up her sleeves, and with all her might, she pushed them out of the church. She rolled up the sleeves of her hassock and pushed them out the church. Bog off! Everyone at the school, they breathed a sigh of relief. The longest wedding in the history of the world was finally over. Wrong. It had only just begun. For months afterwards, Mr. and Mrs. Lovey Dovey went on and on and on and on about their special day. They really were two of the world's very worst teachers. The Lovey Doveys spent lessons forcing their pupils to watch the 9-hour wedding video over and over again. They cancelled the school production of Grease and forced the children to stage Mrs. Lovey Dovey's opera about Mr. Lovey Dovey instead. How rude is that? They cleared all the trophies out of the glass cabinet and replaced them with Mrs. Lovey Dovey's meringue wedding dress. They threw confetti over each other whenever they passed in the corridors. Worst of all, in assembly, Mr. Lovey Dovey recited his 10,000-line poem every single morning. For you my heart will forever be true. Without you I would always be blue. Blue as in sad, not like as in a smurf. So far, so really bad. But things were about to get badder. Again, you will find this word in your Williams dictionary, available at all bad bookshops. One day a bump appeared in Mrs. Lovey-Dovey's tummy. I'm going to have a baby woo-wah. She's going to have a baby. I won't go into how exactly. The bump got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until one day there was no bump anymore, just a really big baby. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo, he cried. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo, cried his adoring parents. That really big baby grew up to become a really big boy. Before long, he became a pupil at St. Valentine's in a school uniform made by his mummy. Out of curtains, of course. Now, there were 3 Lovey-Doveys at the school. Mr. Lovey-Dovey, Mrs. Lovey-Dovey, and Master Lovey-Dovey. Of course, the boy was the ultimate teacher's pet. He received top marks in everything. 100%, 101%, 1,000,000%. In English classes, he would put his hand up after every single sentence his dear papa had uttered. Yes, my angel sent from heaven, Mr. Lovey-Dovey would ask. Daddy Waddy. Yes, Sonny Wunny. I just needed to telly-welly you that you are the mostest wostest, wondermental, papa poo-poo in the whole wide worldy woo-wah. Mr. Lovey-Dovey would burst into floods of tears. Oh, I love you so much. My heart is full to bursting. Then he would scamper down the corridor to find his wife, drag her out of her history classroom and into his. Yes, my hubby-wubby, she would ask. I just wanted to thank you for giving me the greatest gift life could ever offer. What is that, please pray tell? This perfect child, of course. Then it would be Mrs. Lovey-Dovey's turn to burst into tears. Why are you crying, Mama? The boy would ask. Because I am the happiest, wappiest mummykins in the whole wide world. This would make the boy burst into tears too. And I am the happiest, wappiest, sappiest son. Then the trio would all embrace and weep some more, as they were the happiest, zappiest, battiest family who ever lived. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Yuck, 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 and yuck again. The Lovey-Doveys needed everyone to know how much they adored each other. So one morning, they hosted an assembly together. The theme they picked was Love, Sweet Love. All the family shuffled into the sports hall, dressed as huge pink love hearts. The kids burst out laughing. Mr. Lovey-Dovey looked most displeased. Quiet, please. There is absolutely nothing funny about dressing like this. Yes, there is, shouted a joker from the back. You look like a pink wafer. No. We are dressed like this, continued Mrs. Lovey-Dovey, so we can celebrate our most wondermental love with you all. Every morning after we wake up, added Master Lovey-Dovey, we spend a few hours telly-watching. And we're telly-welling each other how much we love each other. So today we're going to share it with the holy-woly school. So perhaps one day you can all be as lovey-wovely-woo-wah as us. And there they all are on the stage. So tomorrow we're going to finish this. Back tomorrow for the last part of Mr. and Mrs. Lovey-Dovey. So have a good night's sleep, everybody. And see you tomorrow. Tomorrow being Saturday, in case we're losing track of days, because it's Friday night now. Have a good night's sleep, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, 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 bye.